and then this is the thing I need you to say. I need you to say,
Okay.
Our next episode, something like our next episode releases in 1 week. That will tag at the very end, and it'll be your voice saying that.
Got it. Are you ready? Thanks, everybody, for listening in on the Most Interesting Person in the World podcast. Check out, because we're going to be dropping one again next week. Boy, that sounded pretty cool, didn't it? It's like, we're going to drop one. But anyway, we're going to upload another one.
We are dropping one every week.
Dropping one every week. All that being said, that stay tuned, because we'll have another one that will be released next. That'll be released next week.
Never mind.
We'll release next week. Look for us at anywhere you get your podcasts. So thanks so much for checking us out.
Oh man.
Watch out for the drop next week.
Sorry I asked. Brady, we really appreciate you spending this time with us today. It's this, as we've been doing this podcast, we've been learning a lot about people, because Brady, like, the whole point of the podcast is that we are talking to strangers and there's no real script. We don't plan questions ahead of time. There's no form. So how do you feel about this kind of thing?
Well, I think starting a podcast by flattering the guest is always a good tip and is useful for making them comfortable. So, props to you on that front. I think when you talk for a living the way that I do, you're pretty comfortable in most situations, irrespective of the questions or the format. And I do a lot of podcasts as well. And I like the ones that end up talking shop or talking about life and drift a little bit away from the work that I do professionally on a day-to-day. But of course, that is my area of expertise, and I can talk about that for a long time also.
Tell me a little bit about what are the things that really get you up in the morning? You'd mentioned a little bit, you vocationally, and you got a lot of different things that are happening. You're in different spaces. But when you get up in the morning, what is it that motivates you to engage in all that stuff?
I'm a pretty ambitious person. So, if my personality type is sometimes called the reformer. And so, like, the worldview that I have is that everything's broken and it's my responsibility to fix it, which is kind of just like the default state that I think things, how I view things. It's not a conscious thought process. But you could ask my wife, like, what's that like for her? And she would say, yeah, it's great. Like, he's quite competent. But also the flip side is things can feel like they're never good enough. We can have this amazing project, it's success, and that can already be on to the next thing. Be like, well, what we could have done better is this. And when I say that, I get really excited. To the question, what gets me up in the morning? I've found that for me, having a lot of different things on my plate. We have a team of about 30 now, a couple of different products and, a few different locations for the office, and then 2 children, young girls, and a family and friends, and then personal interest as well. My life is quite regimented and systemized. And so what gets me up in the morning is, hey, like, I have these goals and ambitions, and I know the best way to accomplish them is to, just put in a little bit of good work every single day. And so it's just about getting up to do that work and putting in a good day's work. And I have a quote here on my wall that says, most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And it's not my quote. It's attributed to someone famous, surely. But the whole purpose of that is that anything that is good takes a long time, and it's about putting in that little bit of good work every single day to achieve it. And I just want to know, every time I wake up in the morning and say, hey, another opportunity to do some good work.
I love it, Brady. So what's going on in these these offices? What good thing is happening in you said you have multiple locations where your team is working. Help us understand a little what's going on in the day-to-day in these offices. What's this good work that you guys are doing?
I run a company called Pro Tools, and we help churches, as we like to say, navigate the biggest communication shift in 500 years. We have products, namely software, helping churches build websites and accept donations online and manage their people. And that's kind of our biggest product. And then we also, do some client work with churches, helping them with social media. But the bulk of what we do is create content. So we've been podcasting for a decade and being on YouTube for a decade and blogging and social media for that long as well. And so most of what we're known for is, just helping churches navigate these murky waters of digital. And so we have two locations. We have a stateside location in Idaho, and we have a location here in Canada in Niagara Falls. And the Niagara Falls location is, the Canadians, and we do a lot of the content creation and the, customer success. And then the American stateside location is where the product designers and engineers and developers all are. And then we have, another 15 or so scattered around the continent remotely.
When did you realize that you could take what you were learning and scale it into this business and really ministry, right? It's a ministry oriented business. When did you realize that you could make a living doing that, and how did you get the kind of business knowledge to make all that happen?
Well, I realized that I didn't have the relational bandwidth to be a full-time pastor, especially in the context of student ministry. I knew if I got into this, I had a passion for it, but I wasn't going to be able to serve these kids the way they would need, because I'm too much of an introvert where I wasn't going to be getting charged by that. I would be getting drained. And then when a kid would need me, certainly I wouldn't have what they needed, but I wanted to still work with church. And so I really found my home in this digital media world. And that was also kind of kicked off like, ooh, online business. What is this? Like, people are making money on the internet. Like, what is that? And, I was making $1,200 a month part-time at my church as the media director. And, my tuition was eating all of that. My wife was working insurance during the day, retail at night. And we were like, well, we don't have any money, so we might as well like go for it. There's nothing to lose if we kind of like try to do this online business thing. And I remember my parents, we got married pretty young, my wife and I. We were 21, and we moved across the country when we were 19. They just, I'll see ya, just dating at the time, and went to this school together with a bunch of our friends. Like we were all living together, in north of Toronto. And then we were like, we're going to go to this Bible college the other side of the country, because they had a worship program and the one in Ontario didn't. So, and so we didn't have much to lose, and we weren't making any money. And I remember my parents being like, first you get married, now you want to like think you're going to make money on the internet. Like, you're very talented and we believe in you and you're skilled, but like, make sure you finish your degree. Just promise us. So I promised them I'd finish, and I did. Graduated with honors. Like, praise God.
Good job.
I remember the first time I ever made $1 on the internet. So I had launched these video announcements as a service, and it was like $299 a month. And a church signed up, and I remember this email came in. I was using this plugin called Cart 66, and it was this WordPress plugin. And so like, Cart 66, new customer in the subject line. And I was like, oh my gosh. Because what happened was I bought this URL, provideoannouncements.com. And because video announcements was not a term that anyone cared to compete for, I was like ranking in the top 3 for the term video announcements. And anyone that was searching video announcements was searching for a video announcement service, because like, they were like, how do you do this? So kind of like serendipitously, I had this really high ranking site, and that keyword people were searching with the intent to buy. So this customer finds me, this church in Florida, and it's oh my goodness. And then an hour later, I get an email from this church, and they said, you know what, after checking out your stuff, like, we need a refund. This is just not going to work for us. And I remember like being absolutely devastated. I was at the office of our church plant, which was like this office building, like office park in the middle of like, the construction area of town, second floor. And I just remember like crying, because I was like so excited and then so devastated. And like, I didn't even want to tell my wife, because I was like, I thought something had happened and then it hadn't. But anyway, a week later, another church from Florida signed up, and this time they stayed. And that church is still a customer of ours today, 10 years later, not with video announcements, because they've kind of fallen out of style, but they use our website builder and they use our other products. And that church signed up, and then within 2 months, 3 more had, and they were all paying $300 a month. And I was making $1,200 a month at church. And if you do that quick math, that means that those 4 churches had replaced or matched my church income at the time. And at that point, it's kind of like you make $1 on the internet, and if you can just make $1, like, okay, this is viable. If I can make 1, I can make 1,000. And if I can make 1,000, I can make, whatever is needed to support my family, and then eventually support this team and build a business. And, who knows how far it goes from there.
That's like when you start a podcast, Joe.
If we could have one person to actually talk to us, maybe
And
more will.
we did, Brady. We felt just like that with this. Now it's not the same comparison. You know, we don't have
Because we don't make
locations
any
and
money.
offices,
There's
and
no
there's no
money.
money, and
There's
there's
no
no listeners.
locations.
But
There's no
we have the
listen
same kind
except
of
for
thing.
in
Like
Upper Alaska. Upper Alaska, we have a very strong market of like 15 people that have listened to it. Yeah, but shout out to Alaska.
yeah. But we had the same feeling with the first person that came on, whose name was Vaughn, and he was a little bit late. We were, I was getting nervous about whether he was going to, because this was what was going to prove whether somebody was actually going to do this. And so we've had a similar kind of feeling. I was wondering when you were talking, um, your work has grown so much over these years, and when it seems like in my life, and I don't know how it is for Joe, but it seems like in my life, the things that I end up doing, I tend to stumble into them. I very rarely like come up with an idea and then it just works. What's it been like for you? Because you are obviously an ambitious person. You have a broad vision. You have a ton of energy and discipline and routine in your life. Has your path mostly been having an idea like the video announcements and just knowing this is going to meet a need and it's going to work, or have you had a lot of trial and error, or is it just kind of maybe I'll try this and then it's stuck? What's your process been like?
Yeah, I would say things have mostly just worked right away, which is something I've
Well, that's
reflected
pretty
on
good.
a great deal of. I'm not sure who said this quote, but I think it was attributed to Steve Jobs. I can't find it right now, but it was something to the tune of like, one of the worst things that you can achieve while you're young is success, is because it makes smart people complacent. And when you're young and you haven't been beaten up by life yet, and I'm 32 for context now, and like it was $1 million business in my early 20s. And like when you haven't been beat up by life yet, and all you've experienced is like, wow, that went crazy really fast.
Right.
You don't really know, how much did I contribute to that, and how much was luck, and how am I supposed to steward something that I'm not even certain how I got it. And
Mm,
so I've reflected on that a lot. And
yeah.
what I am very grateful of is that despite there not being too many like dramatic failures in the history of the business, things haven't been, things haven't gone up crazy quick. Now, in the first year or two, we were making like six figures. And then a couple years later, we were making seven figures. And, now it's multiple seven figures. But there was never a moment where like I went from 0 followers to tens of thousands, or $0 to, hundreds of thousands. It's been very incremental over 10 years, like this, just
Hmm.
steady upward climb.
How
And
many
so what
followers
that's,
do you have now?
well, I mean, I guess it depends on like what your, which platform. We have about 140,000 subscribers on YouTube, 75,000 on Instagram, 100,000 on TikTok, the email list. We're pretty aggressive with the pruning of the email list. So if you don't open, we're going to remove you. So I have 50,000 churches there. Thousands of churches pay for our products. Like it's a lot. And I also, and it's because our it's a very small niche, right? Churches with digital. And so those numbers in our niche are also like, they mean a lot more than maybe having the same amount of numbers in a really big niche like fitness or wellness or fashion or just cameras, something like that, let's say. And so, but to get back to what I was saying, the nice thing about the incremental growth is that it allowed me to like, okay, this is happening quickly, but not so quickly that I can't like find my bearing with each new
Got it.
stage.
Yep.
So hopefully my character and competency are kind of growing proportionately with what I am responsible for. And before I got into this, like I was good at other things. Like I made an entire record from scratch and it got radio play as an example. Like I just made it using Cubase software in 12th grade in my like bedroom. And then, the Christian radio station in the province was playing it, which was like really cool. But like I wasn't actually that good. Like there would not have been an actual upside to that, let's say. And then I did all the sports, I had the good academics, and I was pretty good at preaching when I tried that. I was DJing for a little while, freelance video, like just all these different things. And I was doing all these different things, and it was never quite. You could just quite feel it's not quite in my lane. And then when you get into that pocket, oh wow, you start to come alive, and it also you're seeing it kind of reciprocated beyond you.
When you talk about the things that have kind of grown incrementally, and even in your own heart and life, as you kind of have the moment to reflect, what are some of the kind of significant things that you've learned about yourself and about your God and about the people who you care for that's really made a real impact on your life?
Well, I think I was, as a young person, I was very reactionary. I think like you're younger and you have a lot of passion, but you're not always able to temper that. My youth pastor, he gave me a very you call it a prophetic like picture of how he saw me, and he's like, you're one of those like racehorses that you know is going to be faster than all the other racehorses, but you're a bit crazy. And if we don't like channel all that energy, you're just going to start like kicking and bucking and and maybe it's a bit dehumanizing to be compared to a horse. I don't know. I never really thought about that. But what he was saying is like, like when you channel all that energy and passion, like it is brilliant, but you have to properly channel it because otherwise it can just become chaos. And I was definitely better in my early 20s than I was in my teenage years. But something would go wrong and like I wouldn't even know how to like properly manage the stimuli that I was like feeling from it. I remember when I was a kid, my mom would make me have what she would call down Saturdays because I was just so like hyper stimulated up and down that she would make me have a day where it was like purposefully no stimulus. You're just going to lie around and it's going to be
Hmm.
extremely painful for you, but it's going to be like a reset so that like you can properly learn to, manage everything that's going on in your body and all those feelings and exciting energy. So, I mean, that's been probably like a big part of it. For my wife, like in a relational standpoint, she wants to know that she's getting like the same Brady every day and not wake up one day
Mm,
and it's like super
yeah.
happy, oh, excited, let's go change the world. And then another day where it's just like, oh, what's the point? There's nothing, life's not worth living. This is awful. And there was a lot of that, like, in my 20s. And I think that's also why I've invested so much into like the systems and the predictable routines that I was discussing earlier.
Hmm.
Like that's how I've
Yeah.
found that kind of creates this like framework for me to thrive within. And now the next step is like, okay, what happens if that framework fell away? Like you can't just like live in a pen your whole life. So how can you find ways to like, okay, a little bit of freedom, a little less routine and structure, and are you able to still thrive? One really practical example of that is you know the things that you're good at and then you know the things you're not good at, and it's easy to be like when you're good at something you're just like, yeah, I'm glad to do it. When you're not good at something you kind of just like run from it. I'm just not going to even like try because I don't want to fail at it. So I was in Portugal last week and we had this beautiful Airbnb on this cliff, and the driveway was this sloping driveway, extremely tight and narrow, and it was in the shape of a V going downwards. So there was a 180-degree turn, and on both sides was like concrete. And I was with my friend who's a very good driver, but it was the business trip, it was my rental, and I did it once, and it was like, I don't know, an 18-point turn, like to make sure we didn't scrape any side, but it was rough. And I was starting to feel like anxiety because I'm like, okay, this is tough, foreign location, I'm not used to this. Like, I was like, okay, Justin, why don't you just do it? And he's like, okay, sure, man, I'm glad to do it. And then we got back from the shoot in that morning, and we got there, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of the car. And he's like, hey, you know what? Just give it another try. And this is my best friend, so he knows me. He knew what was happening, and he forced me to do it again, despite like feeling uncomfortable. And I did it the second time, and I was like, oh, okay, so I just got to take the turn this way. Okay, great. And it was fine for the rest of the trip. So that was like that was immaturity in me being like, this is making me uncomfortable. I'm going to run from it. I know he's competent with it. He can do it. But instead, he was like, yeah, you can handle this. It's not in the typical structure routine that you like properly create for yourself. But hey, you're going to do it. And I did. So that's like one step in that right direction of a bit less structure and routine and still being able to like, be the person you want to be.
Yeah.
I have a question. When you talk about relationships, which again, I think that's just like, I mean, the only truth be told, the only reason why I'm doing this podcast is to hang out with Rush.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just an excuse and something for us to enjoy doing. And he's like, hey, why don't you do this? I go, sure. So we're jumping in, doing it because of relationship, right? So talk to me a little bit about, what is it, Brady? What is it about friendship that's so important and meaningful?
So, I mean, for me, I think that the most valuable friendships are just built on a simple, singular thing, and that is longevity. How long can you stay in the other person's life through the ups and downs and through the different seasons of life? What makes that most valuable is like the friend that I'm seeing, across the Spider-Verse or into the Spider-Verse, like we're going to go see that on Tuesday. Like he was my college roommate and he was on my bus in 10th grade. And like he's having his first child in like 2 months. And he's going to be a dad. He didn't even think he could be a dad. And now him and his wife are like going to have a kid. And like we used to watch WWE together in the first year of college when we had no money and we couldn't even afford pizza. And like, so now we've just been together this whole time. And there have been times when like we haven't hung out as much as we do now. And there are times when we hung out more than we do now. But like the constant is we've always been there. And I have a very small circle of friends, but they're all like that. And what we talk about is like the most valuable thing is not this business that we're growing and the fact that like it pays our bills. But the fact that those bills pay for the families that we provide for and that we all get to be in each other's lives for as long as we want.
Yeah. One of the words I use a lot is that, it's never about the thing, whatever you're doing, it's never really about the thing. It's about the process and the people and how you do it together. And I just think that's so evident in the way in which you think and live. It's highly relational. I think it's really what drives everybody because we've been created to do that. Mm-hmm. Right. I think that the loop, closing the loop in terms of care and work and joy is the ability to share that with others, to be able to be together and to be able to create and to do in a way to where other people can enjoy that as well. I mean, it's one thing for me to enjoy a breakfast burrito by myself, but I complete that loop when I share that with somebody else. Either we enjoy it together or I get to tell somebody, I'm like, hey man, I tell you what, this breakfast burrito's pretty all right.
Well, and I've been talking a lot about
did the breakfast burrito really kill the breakfast burrito? Killed it, didn't it? It just the whole.
I think that really hammered it.
It tanked.
Oh, this keeps coming to my mind, Joe, as we are having this conversation. Brady, you are an impressive guy. You are full of energy. You're really interesting to talk to. You have great company. You have great friends. Your schedule is full. Let me ask you this, and I'm genuinely, I want the genuine answer. Why in the world would you be on this podcast with us? I like sent you a message like through Instagram. I said the thing I normally say, like, like we're not, like there's no money involved. We don't have any followers. It probably won't work. Nobody's going to listen to it. And yet here you are, and you're really pouring yourself out, and we're grateful for that. And I'm just interested to know why did you do this?
Why did you do
you have
that?
lots of other podcasts you could do. You could sit on the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the business is built on the back of me giving away stuff for free. I would make free social media posts instead of like claiming I had expertise and like keeping it behind the paywall. I just published it all for free and gave it away all for free. And so everything that has come to my business has come because at first I gave away stuff, and then eventually you build trust and that reciprocity comes around. Like, 96% of the people that are in our audience will never give us a dime. And that's the way the business is meant to go. That's what makes it so exciting and fun. And so I don't know, I get DMs all the time to do podcasts, and assuming it's not a crazy busy time, I almost always say yes, because like, I guess that's just that's how you're supposed to do things, right? Like,
there's the answer. Joe, there's the answer. He always says yes. Right. He always says yes.
No.
Let me tell you.
What he said, no. What he said was, he said, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to say yes, because
and you know what? Let me tell you this.
That's what you do.
I was on my morning walk this morning. This is why this is timely. I was on my walk this morning, and I remember when I first started my podcast, I think it was 2013 or 14. And the way I had started the show was we released 5 episodes in 5 days. This was how like you got onto the charts in iTunes back in the day. And it's actually
listen carefully. This is going to be helpful. Listen carefully to this.
So you launch your podcast, you do a bunch of episodes all at once. Because if someone subscribes and they like it, like they might want to binge a few episodes right away. So you release like 5 episodes at once. And then we had this contest where we said, hey, if you subscribe, you'll be entered to win this free book. And it was by this book of this unnamed author, and he will go unnamed for a reason, that I looked up to. And he had written a book that like was relevant to my audience. And my goal was I wanted to have him as the guest on the 5th episode. And I thought it was pretty audacious to ask for like him to be a guest after only 5 episodes. But I was like, okay, if I give away like 20 of his books, like that's a pretty, like, I think he'd be willing to come on, because I bought all of his books.
Sure, that makes sense.
This isn't like a New York Times bestselling author. This is like the church world. This is small stuff, okay?
Yeah, got it.
And he did not respond to any of my emails ever. And I don't know why, but today on my walk, I was like, I wonder what this guy's up to. And I went to his Twitter, and he had blocked me. I don't know if I've ever found someone who blocked me before.
Why?
I have no idea. I have people, you could surely find dozens of people who have had interactions with me, but oh man, that guy was a jerk. Because they got me on a bad day.
Let's just be clear, Brady. You tell me and Joe who this is that blocked. You tell us who this is, and we will find him. We will take care of this.
We know like 4 people, and
nobody puts Brady in a corner.
Nobody will take it.
Oh my God!
You just let us know. You don't have to say it right now, but you just blink it in SOS, and Rush will take it, and then we'll just all of a sudden you'll be unblocked.
You won't have to worry about it.
And they came through. Joe and Rush came through.
I just never want to be that person, you know. Like it's been 10 years, and I still go like, "What was that? What was that?"
Straight up, and that was it. And that was the answer. It's like, of course, like if you have an opportunity to do good, that you are to do good, that's what we've been created to do. And thanks for letting us take a walk with you today. That was pretty cool.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It was great to be here.
Yeah, I kept on trying to like get him off the stump. You know what I mean? Like it was
no, I don't know what you mean.
I was so interested to just try and get a sense of him outside of his vocation. And then that's when it clicked, when I went, wait a minute. No. It is the same thing. Like you've designed these values and this culture and this thing because it is, it's an expression. It's an expression of it isn't your identity, but is an expression and a giftedness of who you are. And they went, got it. Which is really cool.
And this is what we thought was going to happen, because it reminds me the very first time that we started working on this experiment, we talked about how there's a lot to be gleaned from just even relationships with strangers and conversations like this that we're trying to have, if you can move past that. And so it's interesting that is true even on here. And, hopefully that's, it's highlighting that for real life.
And what's also really interesting too is that my favorite part of this conversation was, you go, hey, why would you get on the spot? He goes, well, because that's what you do. Because that is what you do. Like when you have an opportunity to do good or to meet a stranger, that's what you do. But it's interesting, not everybody does that. I just have to tell you, I was just not in the mood today. I just was
sometimes
not
it happens.
But I was just like, oh man. I had to dig deep, and I was like, no, you know what? That even though I just am not in the mood right now to meet anybody new, that no, it's good. and these are good things. And so it was kind of interesting. I had to kind of had to fight that a little bit today. I was like, not in the mood.
He could feel it. He was like, I'm going to carry you guys today. Watch this.
It's like, dude, Joe's like, man, what are we doing? Our next episode releases a week from today. So make sure to check it out anywhere you get your podcasts.